Good morning, good evening, good night, depending when you're watching this video. My name is Legend and welcome back to World of Tanks and the Greatest of Games series, where we watch some of the greatest moments of very great games. Starting off right away, we got Lucky71 playing in his Progetto 46 on the map Ensk. And immediately he gets towards some interesting starting ambush locations in the city. Because most of the times you might think with your medium tanks you go towards the fields, towards the 8, 9 and 0 line. However, Lucky is not going to do that. Instead he's trying to get some early shots on some enemies that are traversing through the streets from these very convenient holes through the ruined houses. And later on he also checks the other street as well, but unfortunately with no results. However, this is still a very good strategy to do at the start of a game in Ensk. But after that he instead decides to go through the one line and tries to get closer towards the enemies that way. He shortly peeks, but does realize that his tank destroyers are able to keep that corridor spotted. So instead, through another street he sees an opportunity to strike, focuses down the one shot and releases his entire clip into the M103, knowing no other enemies are nearby. But he could have held one shot in and fire all when the M103 was actually killable with his entire clip. Instead now he is leaving that task towards his IS-32, who does take some more damage from that encounter. But with so little enemy presence in the city, Lucky is able to go all the way to the back line of the enemy team and starts causing trouble for them right there. However, with his tunnel vision on the enemy artillery and the medium tanks, he completely forgets about his right flank, taking some damage off the wheeled medium tank, but right after he correctly retreats before the enemies can potentially YOLO him. After his retreat he pokes once again, and instead of fully clipping the G-Soy, he holds in one shot before he can get damaged back, saving him a little bit later on when he gets surprised by the Su-130 PM, which otherwise would have killed him if the G-Soy was able to shoot him back. With some more enemy presence near his base, he returns towards his base but misjudged the actions of the AMX a little bit, but is correctly covering the options to maybe ambush the AMX if he would have driven further through. However, Lucky should have known that his Barask could spot the actions of the AMX quite early on, so a little bit of time wasted here. Maybe that's a blessing in disguise, because otherwise he might have been caught by the Waffenträger. He still takes quite the risky peek, but noticed the shot of the Waffenträger hitting the wall and now knows it is safe to peek once again. Tries to shoot down the house, but that house is a semi-destructible object, so he wasn't able to actually hit the Waffenträger. But with this Barask dead, he tries to get back towards the enemy base in order to support his last standing teammate. Of course, a way better option instead of charging through and trying to get closer towards the Waffenträger on A9 or A0. When reunited with the Jagdtiger, he makes some more risky plays in the open, but now gets results for the risks and shuts down the artillery. As the cap circle is almost fully completed, the Jagdtiger is just being an idiot, not only not able to damage the Waffenträger, but also being killed himself. And now Lucky is in an unfortunate 1 versus 1, where the Waffenträger isn't one shot, but he is. So during this duel they are going around the house, but Lucky does need to get some extra shots in before he can finish off the Waffenträger. So he tries to bait him, a little bit of risk on this point, but the Waffenträger misses again and Lucky is able to fire off all of his rounds. Don't really know if that was actually the play, because if he could have reloaded one more shell, he might be able to clip in total. On the other hand, the reload time of the Waffenträger auf Panzer IV is, well, nothing to be underestimated. I have underestimated that reload too many times, so maybe it was for the best not to gamble on the reload in order to get a full clip of killing the Waffenträger towards the reload of the Waffenträger himself, not able to shoot him down earlier, even though it might come within a few milliseconds. So right now it is quite the Mexican standoff. Both tanks are one-shots and Lucky is actually asking for any tips. The best thing that you can do in this case is utilize your advantage of mobility and the fact that you have a fully traversable gun against this particular opponent. And he gets a very good tip from his teammate in a barrage to maybe go further back and surround him. And that's the best thing you can really do in this scenario. Try to back off, get outside of the proxy spot and try to get towards the enemy through another flank. And Lucky does exactly that. Does get spotted once again, but now he is able to escape from the Waffenträger for now. And now he got options. He can advance from him through the same flank. Does looks like he's going to do that, but he can also get more towards his own base or even go all the way around. However, Enns is a very small map, so if he might have done that, the Waffenträger could have still spotted him and could know where he was going. But instead he is trying to get towards him back from his initial position and almost get a shot off, but unfortunately it just misses, and another shot closely after that also didn't hit the mark. Out of frustration he just fires a third shot as well. But now he's changing up his tactics and is just going for it now, opting towards a more close range encounter. Getting supported by his teammate in the barrage, saying that he's doing great. But now it seems that Lucky really wants to finish this off. He actually gets a view of the Waffenträger but his shot gets absorbed by the tracks of the Waffenträger. Very unfortunate view right here. But the Waffenträger also hits his own tracks, dealing 0 damage. So with the autoclip, it is Lucky that is getting on top of this encounter, truly living up to his name and being, like the friendly artillery is now saying in chat, Lucky with an extra C. So besides the quite lucky encounters with the Waffenträger missing him or dealing 0 damage to him on 3 separate occasions, it was still a great game to see from the perspective of Lucky. Getting the ace tanker alongside with the Pascucci's medal, very good one, and the Levidos medal for killing off several enemy tanks of higher tier, and also with the high caliber and the Top Gun for his 6 kills. For dealing over 5,500 damage, he accumulated well over 1700 base experience. And with a premium account without firing that much premium rounds himself, even though he did add quite a hefty amount of premium shells, with that in a premium vehicle he actually earned over 250,000 credits. That's an insane amount. So yeah, in this replay it was really a different approach on Enns when playing in a medium tank. Getting off some initial ambush location which could have worked if there were more enemies in the city, making his way further through knowing that there are not a lot of enemies in the city, a few mistakes here and there when going all the way at the back line of the enemy base and going back towards his own base, some risky plays here and there, and with a final encounter which he eventually very correctly engaged with disengaging and trying to get another angle on his enemy. But in all those encounters, luck is definitely something that was also in play right here. But well, with a name as Lucky71, I mean, what did you expect? Next up, we are watching Toby Thomas playing in his Grill 15, and it's Godlies playing in his Manticore in the same game. Yes, that's right. We are actually going through two perspectives for this particular game. So the platoon is playing in Mannerheim Lane in a quite iconic tank destroyer light tank formation. Basically, the light tank spots and the tank destroyer deals damage. Both of the platoon mates accumulating hefty amounts of damage and support damage that way. And Toby starts off very strongly with a greatly aimed shot on the EBR. But unfortunately, his seemingly powerful sniping gun trolls him a little bit when shooting at the STRV-103B. During this time, it's Godlies is going towards a spot and snipe position and actually does get some damage into the STRV. With Toby Thomas in his current location, noticing the amount of enemies that are going through the lower flanks, he is preemptively retreating before he gets pinned down by those enemies, keeping up some more options for sniping locations in order to support his platoon mate. It's Godlies, however, is a little bit longer comfortable on his current location, getting off an extra shot on some of the enemies, but also tries to think ahead and trying to dictate whenever he wants to get towards his next location. During this time, Toby Thomas has found another sniping location, but struggles with the held down heavy tank meta. Back towards the Manticore, it's Godlies actually gets a bit surprised by the sudden appearance of the TVP and has to evasively get towards safety quickly before getting punished too heavily. Around the same time that happens, Toby retreats further back to catch the enemy advance from the one line that it Godlies was able to spot and is now getting into a position to support his platoon mate. And from here he is quite able to casually snipe whatever the Manticore is spotting. And spotting he is, trying to get glimpses of the TVP, who actually gets shot down by Toby in the process. Some great teamwork shown right here, and pretty much the core of the light tank destroyer dynamic that you can see in platoons. And slightly later on, the same thing happens towards the Leopard 1. It's Godlies is able to spot him in his Manticore, and Toby is able to hit him with another meaty shot. When the enemies are, however, not really that inclined to push up this flank further anymore, it's Godlies tries to get back to his first position, but gets denied by the enemy light tank, and after that encounter being also shot by the STRV, is now quite a one shot, and from here on out is playing it more safely from the back. But not before one final frontal spotting run and almost taking out the WZ in the process. In the meantime, back on the red line, where Toby is still trying to get some more sniping shots off, knows that he has to retreat once again and repositions to cover the most pressing flank, which is now pivoted towards the flank on the south. But after deciding which location to hold, he eventually ends up at the last stand sniping location. From this position there are no other alternatives anymore, but in this case it is quite necessary. A short while later and it's Godlies is also locating towards the last stand position to spot and snipe once again. And from this location also gets some damage and kills in. However, Toby seems to be less interested in that exact location and opts for seeking out some more solid cover from protection instead of relying on the bushes in the back. From this position he can poke quite effectively, dealing some hefty damage and retreating immediately behind the solid cover so he can get fired back at. And with the platoon occupying these two exact locations, they are able to quite damper down the enemy advance. Having two slightly different angles, they can slowly but steadily deal with the enemy advances one by one, damaging and shooting down multiple enemy tanks advancing from different flanks on the same time. However, it has to be said that the allied TVP is also contributing a lot through this last defense line, with occupying a location that covers even more different angles for the flanks that the enemies are currently advancing through. Unfortunately, at some point the TVP gets overwhelmed, but what started off as a 3 against 9 scenario got all the way back towards a 2 versus 2. However, one big disadvantage for the enemy team, even though the STRV is still seemingly quite healthy in hit points, is that they are not platooned up and lack the extra communication that Toby Thomas and its godlies are currently having. This extra information allows them to work together in order to deal with the Leopard 1. While the Manticore spots him and even deals some damage to him, the Grill on the other flank gets to know what every single detail that the Leo 1 is doing. Toby is eventually trying to get towards the Leo 1, but luckily its godlies is able to deal with him, and that's a good thing, because right on that moment, Toby spots the STRV, engages him, tracks him, and actually pushes a bit to the side in order for its godlies to get another shot into him. And with that final encounter, the fate of the last enemy tank is set, and a platoon is victorious. So an excellent battle showcasing the power that you can have while playing in a platoon. Both Toby and its godlies got the brothers in arms for each having at least 3 kills. Toby gets a first class kill while its godlies gets a second, but it's more about the teamwork that we saw. And in this case it was quite some great teamwork, being off the top of their team in experience earned, with Toby having dealt over 5,000 damage and its godlies over 3,000 damage. Spotting wise, its godlies also contributed nearly 4,000 spotting damage, while Toby also got a very respectable 74 spotting damage off. With 8 kills in total, you can definitely say they have carried their team, alongside some very good support of the TVP on the final encounter, and also the allied Leopard 1, who also dealt quite a lot of damage, even surpassing that of its godlies. But this replay really shows the strength of the dynamic between a light tank and a tank destroyer, especially when they were countering the upper flank against the enemy TVP and Leopard 1. But it was really the final stand against the quite strong enemy advance of 9 tanks that they really shine in order to damage and kill off as many as possible. When eventually the numbers dwindled down towards a 2 versus 2, it was quite easy with the communication they had to make a plan to get rid of those final 2 enemy tanks. Even though it did back out a little bit different, they get the job done nonetheless. So with that double replay action, we are finishing off with Tier 78 playing in his T44-100 on Fjords, and immediately goes for the aggressive play to get towards the central hill. And in that engagement he is able to catch out and destroy the enemy light tank right away. But not before he gets sandwiched between that light tank and the enemy Scorpion, which still cost him a lot of hit points. But it's pretty much 2 tanks for just slightly over half 1 tank. I think this was a good trade. But from the elite timer moment, he gets into a great position to snipe a spot. And he really can get some sniping shots out in this location. But he's still careful whenever he is peeking, due to the loss of over half of his hit points already. And when he is actually getting spotted, he makes sure to sometimes fully retreat in order to get despotted before he is trying to make another peek attempt. This dynamic continues for quite a while. Whenever he sees the opportunity, he strikes with multiple shots due to the relatively fast reload of the T-44-100, even getting some spots of accumulating some spotting damage as well. Also, another advantage on these peeking tactics on relatively long ranges for the T-44-100 is due to its good gun handling, being able to accurately hit the tanks while moving slightly back and forwards. But at some point, when no more enemies are spotted, he tries his luck by pushing in further, shooting down some enemy tanks on the move and aiming correctly for the tracks on the UDAS, making the UDAS completely harmless. Even though he dealt no damage, without a repair kit he has all the time to retrack him over and over again and whittle him down until he is destroyed. And coming to think of it, this is quite the tactic that he does a lot also against the STRV S1. He is firstly focusing down his tracks. And at the beginning he also did it against the Badget, now I come to think about it. Really a mark of quite the experienced player. And against the STRV S1 he does it again, giving his team the opportunity to save him just in time. Because I believe he actually tracked the STRV in one shot, and that way he was a little bit more flustered trying to get an aim back at Tyr, but not quickly enough before his own team could arrive at the scene and well, actually save him in the end against that S1. And at the end we get some nice pile-up action against the one-shot AMX 5000. Some funny shenanigans to end off this replay. So quite a short game, but Tyr was still able to deal over 4000 damage in this time, getting him the Ace Tanker alongside with the Confederate medal and the High Caliber medal, earning him a respectable 1746 base experience, which within a 5-minute game is definitely quite the achievement. And with the premium account he also managed to get a very good amount of profit out of it. So with a shorter replay it's a little bit more easy to get out the key elements that were used, especially the trick of focusing the enemy tracks in order to track them in place for them not to be able to escape in the case of the Badget, not for them to turn their tank and shoot back in the case of the UDAS and the S1, and also in order to delay them from reacting towards the attack, and also that way allowing his team to take advantage of the situation and kill those tanks quicker that way. But from that sniping location it is once again the very powerful location, that one, being able to peek and snipe on several tanks on several different parts of that area. But Tyr was also self-controlled enough in order to realize that he has to be a bit more careful, especially when he already lost over half of his hit points and occasionally retreats a little bit back in order to get despotted and get more results out of the next time he tries forward in order to deal damage once again and maybe not getting spotted at all. So there you go, 4 replays for the price of 3 different games. Hope you enjoyed this. I will say that this is probably going to be the last Greatest of Games video for quite a while, because it's pretty much the last few replays that I've saved for this series. But well, maybe in the future this might return. Until then, we still got some other videos to go through, and I will see you in those. Laters!